Hello everyone, this is Mel here. Welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to take a look at a game called Party of Four: Fortunes Found in the Dungeons Deep. So about a month ago, so early December, I have received a mysterious package, and this is actually a game that I backed on Kickstarter about another year ago, back in 2022 April, and it has been basically delivered back in November 2022. But for some reason, my game has been, lost in the system for around a year. So I'm not sure if that speaks the quality of US postage or Royal Mail in UK. But finally, it arrived earlier in a month, and I'm pretty sure I am the last backers who received the package out of the 1,086. But nevertheless, we are going to take a look at what this game is, because I think there is a very interesting game underneath what you're seeing here, and I think it's worth talking about it. But before I do that, I want to have a quick update. So I've been updating for almost a year, and the reason is very simple. I've become a new father in 2023, and all my time has been basically dedicated to looking after the baby. But the good news is I have been looking at ways to continue, gaming in general, and it actually forces me to look into, how I can get the most of my time as well as, components, in order to get the experience that I want. So for those of you who have watched my previous video would know that I have always been a person who want board games, and as well as adventure experience, solo RPGs. And sometimes it's quite difficult to play these when you have a young children. And the reason is very simple, because you simply can't have that much time. First of all, you don't have that much space, so you can't really have like huge board game setup like we used to. And for solo RPG, even though you can like split into tiny sections, it requires a lot of imagination. So you do want to have like a quiet rooms, and you don't want to have too much preparations. You want to be able to pick up and play. So what I've been doing for the last year is look into ways to actually enjoy the type of games that I enjoy, open world RPGs, adventure games, and see if there's any way to do that with the least efforts. And I think I've collected a few games that allows me to do that. So once I do have time, I will start it to look into those and see, how they do. But let's go back to the game itself. What is Party of Four? So as I mentioned, it was actually kickstarted back in 2022, and the interesting thing about this is that it is actually a $1 game. So it is not a $1 print and play game. It is a $1 physical game. So for $1, you do actually get physical components. Now you do have to pay shipping. I paid $4. So and I actually get like the mid tier instead of the basic tier. So around $7 in total, $4 of postage. And if we do look at actually the cost of posting, it actually costs $5. So the game I have is actually paid for is around $2. So is there $2 worth of game? I do think so, and we're gonna have a look and see what it is. So the essentially what this game is a dungeon crawling games, but it actually combines different genres into one. So it is kind of a um, dungeon quest games, a little bit of Darkford, the dungeon crawler modules from Mork Borsch, and also interestingly, it combines the in my opinion, the most interesting part of Dungeons and Dragons, especially the latest additions, and that is the character creation, which is also the only part that 99% of the players will ever experience role playing, because they never get to section 1, they only get to section 0. But anyhow, we're going to see what we get from this game. So for $1 game, you actually get a lot of stuff. So what you see is mostly included in the $1 pledge. There are also other things included, some dungeon tiles, and it doesn't include any dice. So you do have to get your own dice. So instead of D6s, you also use, I think, D20s as well. But let's take a look and we'll see what you get. So first of all, we have a few of these like cardboard things, and these are the what they called the Heroes Academy. So basically, these are where you will initially, when you craft the heroes, you will need to send them to schools to see if they actually get some bonuses during the educations. So there's a few of them. So there's, for example, this one, the blacksmith apprentice. It is not on the job indentured certitudes if you love it. And then we have like some other things like involuntary wealth redistribution school. Why climb the ladder of success when you can steal it? And this is, like your thieves guild. And on top of that, you also have, for example, the Arcane Arts Academy. A little magic never hurt anyone, but a lot of magic hurts real bad. And let's read a little bit of the description. So, welcome to a newly rebranded Arcane Arts Academy, formerly known as the Secret Order of Wizards working in the shadows to manipulate stupid people. While nothing has changed except the name, we invite you to join the realm's oldest school of dazzling mayhem and senseless destructification. So there is some issues regarding the writing of the game, and also in terms of how the Kickstarter is actually handled. And there's mainly the kind of juvenile writing, and I mean by juvenile humor, it is the kind that you really expect from teenagers. Like, for example, the use of stupid. The word is the most insulting thing ever, and when you have a joke that involves maybe someone's mother, then people will start giggling, and that kind of like juvenile humor. But the good news is, in order to play the game, you don't actually get to experience a lot of that. If you read the rule books, yes, there's a problem with that. If you read the campaign, the Kickstarter campaign, yes, there's a lot of writing that is borderline annoying. But the good news is, once you get into the meat of the game, which is the dungeon crawling part, all of this goes away, and it almost feels like it is written by a different person to a point. But we'll see that later. So apart from these cardboard kind of academy ones, you also get to these are all double-sided. You also get a game board. So this is where you have your encounters, both combat and obstacles. So this is a dice pool system. You basically roll a number of dice, compare the highest result with either the obstacles or the enemies, and basically it goes in turns. Every time you have highest ones, then you will just basically take one dice pools off your components, your opponents, or the obstacles, or from your party, because your party member has been taken out of the combat. So apart from that, you also get a dungeon board. So this is the dungeon board that you have, where you will use the cheats that you get from the game. So these are kind of your classic a little bit of dungeon quests games, where you have like your entrance and then the exit. So for example, this is like a T junction. You can go up, down, or to the right. And what you do is you basically put it on these boards, and then you connect it to from the left to the right. So you roll a dice to see which entrance you start with and where is the actual treasure hoard. And this is a kind of clever way, because it allows you to generate a dungeon that has different layouts, but in a predefined space. So very useful for someone like myself who doesn't always like drawing your own dungeons, and also not necessarily want to use tiles because you get like a huge dungeon that you don't have any space to put it. But very nice. And these are actually come in cardboards, so not very thick cardboards, but cardboards nevertheless. Now the problem with this game is that it was shipped in a very thin envelope, and that is understandable for a $1 game. We're not expecting like really premium package, but the problem with that is it gets knocked around, and all the corners are kind of like ruined, as you can see, and that also applies to my game as well. Luckily I used just a corner rounder to round it off, so it kind of looks much better. I think it should have printed and rounded in the first place, but obviously it is a Kickstarter by a one-man team, so kind of not expecting too much work on that side. So apart from that, we also get some character sheets. This is, as I mentioned earlier, I've ordered the mid-tier kind of pledge instead of the $1 pledge. So I do come with the 2 sets of character sheets. And I do think it is important because this game actually uses both sides of the sheet. So if you do have one, then you actually have to write on both sides, and you have to kind of flip back and forth, which is very annoying. And also there's an issue with these ones because they are coming in normal paper. So I have personally laminated them. They don't come in laminated forms, and the reason is because I do want to play it multiple times. In its original form, it's just like your normal matte paper where you can write with pencils and erase it with erasers. And I think that is a mistake because they won't last that much longer. So you just use it once or twice. And this game actually doesn't come with any PDFs for character sheets. So this is the only copy that I have. And if you broke it or whatever it is, then you can't play your game. And that also applies to the I would say the meat of the game, because these are 2 sheets of here, very crowded tables, is how you actually generate all your dungeons. So this is the meat. This is where you see if you have obstacles, the environment of the dungeons, or if you have enemies and so forth. So you do use this very often, these tables, basically to test the meat of the game. But again, they come with the matte paper instead of the cardboard paper. I kind of see the reasons for one of it, because this is the dungeon generations, the chamber description, and it also kind of use it as a loot table. So the way the game allows you to track it is if you use it with pen and paper, then you kind of like highlight which loot you have, and you can write how much you have. But nevertheless, this is kind of the most useful meat of the game, and I do think that it is a mistake to actually print them in the matte paper and treat them as like character sheets. I would rather have one of these like Academy cardboards replaced with the dungeon tables, but this is what we have. So luckily I got to laminate them, so a bit more use, few more uses hopefully get from this game. But that's pretty much all you have. On top of that, you get a couple of sheets. If you get the $1 ones, you have to cut them up yourselves, but I got the $3 ones, so it is laser cut. Not much difference. These are really thin sheets, kind of the ones that you get from those really old games back in the 80s, 70s, 90s. But they worked, so that's what you get. So that's pretty much the game itself, game components itself. But what exactly do you do with this game? As I mentioned earlier, this game is a combination of multiple components. There is a little bit of hero crafting, there's a little bit of dungeon crawling, and on top of that, there's actually a little bit of MMO kind of crafting as well. But at its core, I would say this is a storytelling game, surprisingly. This is the kind of games that I personally enjoyed, where it's not just about rolling dice, it's about using the dice to tell something, tell us a little story. And in the next part, I'm going to do just that, as both as a let's play and also as a guide of this game, because I do think this game requires a little bit of a guide, a rulebook guide, instead of just reading the rulebooks, because I have read the rulebook once. Luckily, I don't have to read it again. And for the remaining 1,000 backers, if you haven't already been this game already, I hope this is going to serve you well, because I'm going to take one for the team and show you how to actually play this without reading the rulebooks. So let's go into that. So the first thing to do with this game is you have to create a party of 4, and in order to do so, it's pretty straightforward. You actually have a number of races that you can pick from. You pick 4 of them, and you actually roll to decide their attributes. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to pick the first 4. So as you can see, there's like a dwarf, there's an elf, dark elf, changeling, rock gnome, a halfling, and a human. The race doesn't really do much apart from the initial attribute bonuses. So you can see dwarf get like an attribute in terms of the fortitude. So I'm just gonna quickly write down. I'm gonna pick these 4. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and to decide the initial attribute, you do it like the old school way, like many role-playing games. You roll 6 dice, d6s, and remove the highest and the lowest score, and then you assign the remaining to your attribute. So I've got a really bad one. So 1 and 5 is gone. Remaining 2 1s and 2 2s. Which is ridiculously bad, but that's what we have. And I'm going to do a little bit of metagaming. I'm going to assign the highest ones to the ones with bonus. So I'm going to assign 2 to my fortitude, and 2 to my brawn, 1 to my attribute, and 1 to my brain. And I'm also going to do the same thing for the remaining 4 characters. I'm probably going to skip that and come back. Okay, so we have our characters here. So not great rolls, but sufficient. So I have kind of have a really good elf here and a good dark elf, but obviously a dwarf and changelings are kind of poor rolls. But what you do next is actually see how your heroes individually, how they actually get their trainings. And to do that, you will use the academy cardboards over here. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a few ones that you can pick from. You have the thief, you have the skull crushing, which is your fighter, you have a blacksmith, and then you have also, I think, you've got wizards. And there's also a 5th one, which is what we call, it's called the School of Hard Knocks. This is where if you actually fail to enroll into any of the other schools, this is where you end up with. But let's see how it goes. So the first one, our dwarf, I would say I do want to send him to, of course, the places for dwarves, which is a blacksmith, a smithing academy. Now, in order to do so, you actually roll a few dices in order to test if you actually have it in you to get into it. So to roll for this one, you actually need to roll a d10. If it is larger than your skills, then you don't get to actually enroll. You get to you failed it basically. or if it's less, then you successfully rolled. So for us, actually, it's actually not a very good one because we only have brains, which is 3. So, sorry, a brawn is 3, our brains is 1. Um, our agility is 1, and our fortitude is 5. So actually, the best place for us to get is somewhere it tests the fortitude. But nevertheless, let's try. Let's try if we actually enrolled into blacksmith. I'm going to test my brawn, which is 3. So I need to get 3 to 1. So it's a D10. Let's see what we get. So a D10. Of course, it is a 10. So we failed completely. There's no way we can succeed. So we failed blacksmith. Let's try again with skull crushing, with the fighting. So again, a D10. This one is just brawn. So 3 to 1, 8. Failed again. So our dwarf is failed twice. There's no chance of academy because it's brains. We have brains of 1. I'm not even going to test it. And then we also have thieves, which is agility, also 1. So there we have it. Our dwarf has to be enrolled into the School of Hard Knocks, unfortunately. And let's see how it goes. Are you dumb as a rock? Then you need the School of Hard Knocks, and that's where our dwarf ends up with. So enrollment in the School of Hard Knocks is automatically success. It's not like it takes a genius to collect bits of trash in exchange for 0 square meals a day and nightmare-filled slumber in gutters. So very, very nice. But let's see what we have next. So once you enrolled into an academy, you will need to go through each year to see how when you graduated, or if you actually get the bonus once you succeed in that year. So first year, we're going to roll D20 to see compare with our agility and our fortitude. If it's less than that, then we succeed and we will get a little bonus. So it's a D20. Our agility and our fortitude is 1 plus 5, so a total of 6. So let's see. First one, 7. Of course we failed. So we didn't get it, unfortunately. So we didn't get through the first year. Now, what you do next is you actually, if you do not succeed in your first year, you will need to see what is the setback. And for the hard knock, this is the kind of a D6 roll. There's a chance that you will get kicked out. You might need to repeat a year. You can skip year, or you can just simply get full reward. You get straight graduate for some reasons. So we're going to see what kind of setbacks we have. We failed the first year exams, D6, a 3. So I don't know how you do it, but that rich fella that just dies felt so sorry for you that he decided to put you in his will. There's nothing more I can teach you. Just remember us chumps when you are rich and famous. Oh wow, extra advancement and graduate rewards. So so basically we failed the first year for some reasons. We did something ridiculous. We probably met a rich person, and we did something that impressed him so much that he put us in his will, give us everything, and we get the advancement success. So and so we get let me just quickly check. So we get extra advancements and graduate rewards. So we get one of these, and then one of these, and we're going to roll that and see what we get. So the first one is a D10. So a 2, which is a 10 gold. I'm going to get an well, actually, if I'm correct, I get to get every bonus and then an extra advancement, and then I get to graduate. So each year, if you actually succeed, you can actually +1 to your attribute. So I'm just going to do that first. So I'm going to give us some more force due. I'm just going to say that every year dwarfs gets his attribute from 42, so he has become a very good um, kind of like a tank. And then we also get the advancements every year. So every year, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4 plus another year, so there's 5 of them. And I'm going to do it 5 times. So the first one is 8, which is 15 common crafting pieces. So as I mentioned, this game involves a little bit of crafting, like an MMO style crafting as well. So you get to, um, combine common crafting pieces to rare ones, and rare ones to like better ones, and then you can use them to craft some weapons or unique items. So I'm just gonna skip through this rows and see what we get at the end. So I have already rolled up my all the advancements as well as my rewards. So we actually get 30 common crafting pieces, 5 rare ones, and 20 gold. And we also roll our graduate rewards, which is like a skills that you get. And the ones that we get is tough cookies, return to encounter if knocked out. So what we have here is you have your character sheet over here. What we need to do is basically circle the skills that we have. So in this case, it is the tough cookies. So we know that we have that skills. And also we will need to do the same thing for the other characters. But before we do that, this sheet over here, we can also record our crafting pieces that we have. So I'm going to do everything and then do it together, because otherwise I would need to erase it and write it multiple times. So I will do everything for the 4 heroes, and I will kind of do a summary of what we have at the end. So welcome back. So I have actually rolled up all the 4 characters now, and I'm going to give you a little summary. So as we've seen for the first one, the dwarf actually managed to graduate for some reason after helping some rich folks and being put in the will. So he get a lot of stuff from that. He got a lot of common components as well as rare components. He actually contribute to majority of what we have here. Now, the elf here, the next one, actually also graduated. He graduated from the Arcane Arts Academy, and with success in every year. And he actually also get a skills at the end, which is the area effect. As you can see, the force enemy or obstacle to reroll all dice. And then what we have is our Dark Elf. Now, unfortunately, Dark Elf, you can see there is nothing over here. This is the education, and that is because he failed in enrolling all the academy. He failed to roll into blacksmith, the fighters guild, the academy, as well as the thieves. He did enroll automatically into the hard knock ones, which you don't have to test anything. But in his first year, he failed to progress and he was kicked out straight away. So even though he has kind of best initial stats, the natural stats, he's not a very good student, unfortunately, and he was kicked out straight away. So he has no bonus, no rewards, nothing. And then it is our changeling. He actually managed to get into the academy as well, but he never get to graduate, unfortunately. So he actually get to the blacksmith, but he never get to graduate. He was kicked out on his 4th year. So we have 2 kicked out, 1 graduated by luck, and one of our heroes is actually a really good student. So one thing we actually get is a potion from the elf, so as a reward, one of his reward, and we would like to roll that together. So to do that, you actually use this sheet over here. You can see there is a potion, spell, scrolls, and table. So it's a d20, and we're going to roll and see what kind of potions that we get. A 7. So 7 is a pouch of forge Ash, and it has 3 uses, as you can see over here. So in order to do so, you just basically highlight that you have this, and every time you use this one, you just uh, remove it. And the actual effect of that is you can actually see what kind of effect it is. So a forged ash is here. As you can see, there is part of the blacksmith skills. So reroll this adventures, combat, or obstacle dice. So we don't really actually have this skill, but as an item or as spell scrolls, we actually can use it 3 times. So the elf can use this 3 times. So that's pretty much it. So once we have all our characters rolled up, then we will need to transfer it into the main character sheet. So the main character sheet here is this one. So you can see you basically transfer all of your characters, the ones you rolled up with the bonus they get over the educations into this sheet. And you add up all the skills to get your party skills, and also you get like a party explore, magic, crafting, and resistance. These are based on multiple different skills. So for example, your total party skills plus your total party brawn will determine how much you get as a party crafting in total. And I'm just going to skip that part and get back once I fill this up. So I have now filled up the party tracking sheet. As you can see here, we have the 4 characters, the dwarf, the elf, the dark elf, and also the changeling. I've given them a name. So dwarf is called Thoron, the elf is Anoria, and then the dark elf is Gichi, and then the changeling is Talk. These are just generated using the fantasy name generator online. And I've also populated their skills, these based on the normal road plus their educations, and also their natural bonuses. So as you can see here, Thorn is really strong in terms of his constitutional fortitude, and then we also have all of them filled in. And after you do that, you actually add up all your total. So 1 plus 10 plus 2 is 6 is 19. This is your party's brain skills, and also brawn, agility, and fortitude. And these also determine your party exploration skills, magic, crafting, and resistance. So if you think about it, a party will help each other out in a dungeon, do whatever they need to overcome situations. So even though Thorn might be only have 1 in brains, but his party could help him out somehow, so that they will overcome whatever puzzles that they need to go through. And same for his agility. Even though he's 1, he might still be able to cross a chasm with the help of others. So this is basically the idea, and this system is actually pretty clever, because what it means is in the actual game you don't actually roll too much on individual skills. You do that as well, but most of the cases you actually roll on your party ones. So reflecting how your party of 4 is helping each other out. And so once we have this, we are actually ready to start our game. So to start it, this is the dungeon crawling part, and the aim is to go through 5 different dungeons. And you do get to fail a dungeon at certain points. So if you failed 3 combat encounters, then you will fail that, and you just go to the next one. You don't redo it. So once you do when you do 5, then you actually check out how much treasures you get at the end, and see where you end up with. Do you end up in a shack, or do you end up in a grand castle? So to start a dungeon is pretty straightforward. You actually roll a die to see where your entrance is and where the treasure hoard is, and you just roll d6. So our entrance is 3. So you use this sheet over here to indicate this is the dungeon starting point. And then once you do that, then you also put a something over here. You can be a token or anything to see how much you have explored. So every time you review another dungeon tile, you will actually need to add a meter here, and this will actually contribute to what you encounter, because the deeper you go, the obviously more difficult the encounter will be. So you can see this table is actually a d20 plus the party level plus the exploration meter. So our current level is 1. So basically, we'll need to roll a party level of d20 plus 1, plus depending on how many tiles we actually open up. So this is the table that I mentioned where the theme or kind of the writing of the game started to change dramatically. So previously we have looked into the Academy ones. They are kind of tongue-in-cheek, if you put it that way. But this is actually where it gets serious, because this is where it started to feel a little bit more like a solo role-playing games. And the first thing you do is actually you roll on what kind of dungeon it is. It is just a kind of a narrative dressing, but it is very much similar to what we do in our solo role-playing game. So let's check what kind of our first dungeon is. So roll 4 d20s, and we'll do them one by one. So the first one is a 20. So the location is the Eternal, and 15. The Eternal Silver Mines, and that is a 2 of the Jade Peaks, and then the last one is a 10, which is a failed king was assassinated here. Okay, so the Eternal Silver Mines of the Jade Peaks, where a failed king was assassinated here, is the location where we are going to start our adventure for our little party of 4, where we have 2 dropouts and 2 graduates. So not sure how they get together, but interesting enough that they somehow work with each other. But the thing you do first is just draw any of your dungeon tile here. So we have a bunch of here. So I'm just going to randomly draw one. So you can see it indicates where you entered and where you can exceed. So the first thing is, because our entrance is here, so we are going to put it this way. And we need to immediately increase our explorer meter by 1. So we're now at the first timer. And to see what exactly is in this tile, we're going to roll on the table below. So this is 2 d20s plus the party level plus the exploration meter, which is 1 each at the moment. So it will be a d20 plus 2. So we're going to do that together. So the first one is a 7. So let's see what 7 is. So a octagonal chamber with a high ceiling, and you can see there is actually a red skull here. It means that there is a danger ahead, and we will need to roll a danger later. But let's see the second part. So a octagonal chamber with high ceiling, as well as what? Oh, actually, sorry, I didn't get it right. So just go back a little bit, because I need to add 2. So it's actually a large round chamber, and the high ceiling disappears into darkness. So I would say this is probably where we get into the mine. This is a place that we get into the mine, the entrance. It also has a skull anyway. So the second row is 19. 19 plus 2 is 21. So the chamber is shattered. A huge crevice shears it in half, the ground and the walls tilted away from it. Oh wow. So this hall is incredibly huge, because it has, first of all, high ceilings that disappears into darkness, so it must be a really high ceiling. You can't see the top of it. And also there's a hole kind of a hole in the middle, so it's a shattered chamber. So it has a green diamond over here. Oh, sorry about that. So there's a green diamond here, which means that we can get some loot. But the first thing to do is actually to see what is the danger. So this is where the table you use to roll the danger. So you can see the danger ahead, and you will need to roll a d10 plus the party level as well as the exploration meter. So again, this is 1 each, so it's plus 10 d10 plus 2. Because in the rooms that we have, the chamber only has 1 red skull, so we only basically roll once. But then if you actually have both description as red skulls, then you actually roll the um, the highest roll possible. So in our case, it's just a d10 plus 2. So let's see, which is 10. Um, 10 plus 2 is roll on the obstacle table over here. So the obstacle table is just over here on the right hand side. Nope, actually it's here. So the obstacle table is again a d8 plus the party level, which is a 1. So a d8. So 3 plus 1 is 4. So the party encountered a group of dangerous humanoids. Can they negotiate to allow safe passages? So this is a danger level 4. So this is our first kind of encounter. We get into this eternal silver mines of the Jaded Peaks, where we actually have a encounter with a group of humanoids. So they're probably here also for the treasure of the Assassin Kings. And the way it works in this game is you actually do combat and obstacle in very similar way. So as we have seen, so this obstacle is actually a level 4. So we basically have to see how much dice we have for this obstacle. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has 4 dice pool. And for our characters, we also have 4. Each one is represented by them, just doing their own thing. Now you can add things like if you have rare weapons or items, you might be able to add some dice. Or if you use skills that works in this situation, then you will also be able to use that as well. In our cases, our dwarf has a skill that prevents losses of disadvantageous dice on a loss. So if I get like a really poor die, then I don't actually have to remove it. But then if I actually you also use the different skills, which is from the elf, which is area effect, some kind of magic, and I can also force our enemies to or obstacle to re-roll all dice. Unfortunately, I can only use it once. So first thing to do is I'm going to roll these 4 to see how difficult is it to negotiate with these humanoids enemies or people. Wow, that is ridiculously difficult because they have a 6. So we will at least have to roll a 6 in order to counter that. Otherwise, we have kind of lost it, so we'll lose some dice pool. So what I'm going to do is I am going to roll ours, and we'll see how it goes. Oh, that's just really good. I'm just going to do in this order. So 1, 4, 4, 6. So in that same order. And the reason I want to do this is because it tells a story. So who actually manages to discuss or negotiate with these people? And that is party 4, which is our changeling Tox. So somehow Tox managed to convince them, or somehow to not immediately attack us. So what happens on a tie is that the obstacle will lose 2 dice pools and the party will lose 1 dice pool as well. So I'm going to take these 2 off because I don't like the d6s. They got cursed. And who I am going to say is retired is, I'm going to say the dwarf because it has the lowest. I'm just use that as the way to determine. And that is because the dwarf is kind of he just rushed in. He pulled out his weapons, and these humanoids encounters is also pulling out their weapons, and luckily nothing happens. Nothing bad happens. Talk managed to actually talk them down. So again, we're going to do in the second round. So everyone's slightly calmed. The obstacle is still 2 dice. I'm going to roll down. 1 and 6 again. Oh my. I'm going to do it again for the remaining 3. Oh, unfortunately, we get 4, 1, and 3 this time, so we loses it. So you can see, if the obstacle wins, it will actually we will have to lose 1 die. So who are we gonna lose? The dark elf, Jichi is gonna lose. So somehow he say something, offends the other people. So we're gonna do it again. Hopefully we can do something. 3 and a 2, and then let's see our elf and our changeling how they do. Oh, great! So changeling did it again. He actually managed to talk them down, so we win. The obstacle lose 2 dice pools. They are gone. So we somehow survived our first encounter. We talk to these people. We probably tell them that we don't have to fight each other. We can each of us search our own way, do our own thing, and find out what we want. See if we can actually find out the treasures ourselves. No need for a bloodied competitions. So we managed to go through that. There's no reward through just going through an obstacles, but you get because we have the second part of the chambers, which allows us to remember, look at the diamond. The chamber is shattered, so there is actually a treasure here. So we will roll on the treasure, the loot, and in this case, we actually roll a d12. And funny enough, actually, this is not a d12. This is actually a 2d6s, as you can see over here. So this is the first chamber. So if we actually gain some loot, then we will actually roll a 2d6. So in this case, let's see what kind of things we get. So a 5 and a 2. So 5 is 6d12 gold, and 2 is 2d8 gold. There's lots of rolling, unfortunately, in this case, so I'm just gonna quickly skip it and come back with the result. So I've rolled the gold. Actually, we get 46 gold. So our party gold is now 170 plus 46. So not doing too bad. So I'm just gonna update it. So it's 216 now. And that is the first chamber. So the next thing is to actually increase the explorer by 1. And then we're going to draw another tile. So again, we are still in the first column. So this is our second tile. So we are here. So we can obviously go to the right in this case. But in order to do so, we're still going to roll a chamber description. So we go through a chamber of endless high ceiling as well as a creases. Where we find some gold. We managed to talk down some humanoids enemies. And we are going to see the second one. So it's again a d20. This time plus, instead of 2, it will be plus 3 because we are progressing deeper into the dungeons. And the first d20 is a 2 plus 3, which is 5. So a small shrine to a long forgotten god. Okay, so there's no red skulls or diamonds here. So this is just a description. So getting through the chambers after these humanoid people walked away, we found a shrine. So not sure why the king was assassinated. Probably because he's part of a cult, and some heroes managed to assassinate him to stop him turning the whole kingdom into, I don't know, sacrificial rituals or whatever it is. But we'll see once we get into a bit more of the story. So another dead d20 is a 20 plus 3. I think it's the same thing we had last time. No, not really. A pit yawns open just beyond the door's threshold. The entire floor has fallen into a second room beneath it. Oh, and there's also a skull and a diamond. So this is both a danger and also a treasure. So Interesting. So it's a secret room from this shrine of this cult or something. So we're gonna see what we get. Again, it is this one, a D10 plus the 3 this time, the party level plus meter of 2. So we're gonna roll and see what we get. So a 10. 10 plus 3 is another obstacle encounter. Now I'm going to say we have a combat because it's pretty much the same thing. And I'm just going to show you how it works. And the way it works is you then roll on the combat encounters, as you can see over here. It is again a D1 plus party, so it's again D10 plus 3. So we'll roll that, and it is a 5. So 5 plus 3 is 8. So what we have is 8 over here. So 4 goblin minions, and then lure the party into a trap. So there are some goblins over here, and the way it works is pretty similar to the obstacles as I mentioned. Again, you have the full party of 4 dice over here, unless you have some weapons or any skills that you can increase it. Then you have your minions, so there are 4 goblins, so each of them have 4 dice. So it's similar to the obstacles that we have. This is again just 4 dice. So exactly the same way you roll these 4 to see what they get. So 4, 4, 3, 5. And then you roll ours to see, how we deal with them. So, it's interesting. So it's 3, 6, 3, 4. So I'm just going to put it in this order. So it's actually helpful if you have actually different die color for your hero, so you can exactly tell which one is which. But I just use the order of it. So this time our elf has the highest one. So elf did something really good. So if we win, the enemy lose 1 dice pool. So our elf did something ridiculously good. He probably shot from the first sight of a goblin minion showing up from the traps, and then take 1 out straight away. And we'll do it again. So again, roll 3 dice for them. So there's just 1, 1, 4. So we have a good chance that we'll take over them. Oh, 6, 6. Oh, that's really good. So this 6, 6, 4. So again, elf and dark elf work together and take out another one, and then we continue to do that. So we'll see where that goes. So 2 and 2. We have another 1, 1, 1. This time it is the changeling. The talk's doing something really good, so he's probably stab another goblins. And then the last one is 6. Oh, luckily we also do have a 6. So this time is again the dark elf is managed to fight this goblin, stab each other. So when you have a tie, both lose 1 die. So that is fine because we'll get back that die in the next encounter. So stab each other. Luckily, maybe the dark elf has some armors. The goblin doesn't have it. So we won this encounter and we get another loot. So because we're still in the first column, we will still roll 2d6s. Now you can see once you get through deeper into the dungeon, you actually get to roll more dice, so you get more loot. And then at the end, I forgot to do this, which you have to roll again another d6 to determine where you are. So in this case, the treasure hoard is here. So you kind of want to navigate your way all the way up till here. And if you can't, then for whatever reason, if the dungeon is blocked, then you actually fail this counter, and you just get out with whatever loot you have. But if you do fail 3 combats, then you actually run away from the dungeons, leaving all your loot, and you basically go to the next one. So, what do I think about this game in general? Let's go through the review. So overall, Party of 4. How do I think about it? I think there's actually a really interesting game underneath, the appearance of this game. It doesn't really look that good, to be honest, even though it's very colorful. It does look like your roll and write game where the dungeon crawling part is tacked on, where it is just saying it's a fantasy theme. while it's actually not doing too much. But this game actually manages to do something different. I think it actually allows us to create stories. The dungeon itself is surprisingly thematic, especially with the use of this card. So you actually, even though it's just window dressing majority of the time, it's just fluff text, saying the dungeon is an eternal silver mines of the Jade Peaks where a failed king was assassinated here. But it is actually that little bit of text that grounded us the story. So why would we want to go there? And because of that, the encounter actually makes sense. So we encountered a group of another humanoids. They probably also want to find a treasure of this failed or assassin kings. And we discovered there's a shrine to a forgotten god. So maybe there is something more sinister. Maybe the god is part of the cult that the king was worshipping. And then we find some goblins. So the goblins is probably also working for this god. So there's a lot of story that you can tell, similar to the solo RPGs that I used to play, but without the work of actually going through a lot of roll oracle tables. And then on top of that, I really enjoyed the danger system. So both the combat and oracle is done as a very straightforward dice pool system. You don't have to track of health. You don't have to track anything like damages. It is very straightforward. If you have a highest score, dice score, then you win that turn, and then the other either the obstacle or the components or the combat enemies or your party will lose its dice from dice pool to represent they're getting weaker. So your party is exhausted. Your elf has done something maybe something heroic, and he take out the enemies, but then he needs to have a rest for the rest of the combat. So it's very straightforward. It is the dice is there almost just to create stories, how you actually approach the encounter. So as our first one, the negotiation is mainly won by our changeling. So maybe it's because he's somehow charismatic, good at negotiation, and for whatever reasons he managed to talk down the other party. And for the combat, actually, our elf did really well. He took out multiple goblins single-handedly, and also I think the dark elf helped a little bit as well. So it's all about creating stories. It's not about tracking, health and so forth. So for a roll and write game, you actually don't need to roll and write a lot. The only thing that you actually do track and change a lot is the gold, because your loot kind of always get loot, and this game is really generous with loot, as you can see from the um, dungeon table. So the first column you actually roll 2d6s. This is basically 2 rows of d6s. The second row 3d6s, and then at the end you roll like 5d10s and or 5d12s. So you get a whole bunch of loot. It is like your um the games like Dungeon Quest, where you constantly get something, risk and reward. It is not about dribbling of loot, and even though it's just loot like common components, like your you know really MMO kind of like white tier components, you can use it to combine to rare components. You can use that to combine and create a weapon. Or if you get all the way down, you can get one of these legendary weapons. There's D10s of them, and each of them will have their own specific effects that changes the combat or changes how you approach with obstacles. And um, now the problem with this game is obviously the fact that, first of all, the delivery of it is not ideal. I know that a lot of people actually receive completely ruined copies. Either the board is completely bended, but it is as expected, because the designer actually, to cut the cost, has to ship it in the cheapest kind of like a normal envelope. So I kind of expected it. I mean, it is a social kind of Kickstarter experiment by the author, which is called, I think, goes by the name of Colossal Kent. I don't think he made much money or any money at all, even though this is a relatively successful Kickstarter. I think there was like 1,000 people, and he made like $11,000. But I think that includes the shipping cost. So in reality, if you shipping is like $4 or $5 each, then take 1,000 people out, that's like 5,000 gone. So it's just maybe work with $5,000. And there's quite a lot of things that he did. So yes, it is mainly like papers and just printed on either normal paper or cardboard, so they would be relatively cheap if you achieve a economy of scale. But also the designer need to account for replacements because lots of things got shipped lost. So for example, mine was shipped a year ago and only received a month ago. So I have actually requested a replacement. I don't know if can actually resend it, but who knows? Maybe in another year time, I would receive another copy. So that is pretty much it about this game. It is a very interesting game. Is it a game of the year? Is it like a hidden gem? Not really. But for me, I think it is trying to do something quite different. It is mashing a few different genres together, and surprisingly, it takes a lot of dungeon crawling boxes for at least for myself. Um, I liked it quite a lot. It saved me from drawing my dungeons because it provides tiles. It kind of feels like your dungeon quest, where you go through like quick get in, get out, get loot. And it also feels a little bit like Dark Fort because the dungeon goes from left to right, so it's defined in a certain structure. You don't have to use lots of tiles, long tiles, different T-shaped tiles like Dungeon Warhammer Quest, where I simply don't have that table space at the moment. And if for roll and write game, you don't actually need to do a lot of tracking. All you track is loot. So a very nice little game. And there's also a little message from Kent over here. I promised the game printed on toilet paper. Contract obligation completed. You're welcome, Colossal Kent. So, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people can't stand the juvenile style writing of the campaign updates as well as the rulebooks. So I hope this also serves as a kind of like a let's play guide on how you actually play this game, so that you don't have to read the rulebooks. And for those of the 1,000 people who either received a playable copy or you haven't binned your copy yet, I do hope that you give it a try at least, because I think there is something interesting enough underneath all these papers, and as well as the kind of like annoying writings on the Facebook, or sorry, on the Kickstarter page. But hope you enjoyed it. I will talk to you guys later. Thank you. Bye bye.